on today's podcast.
Nothing is more important than the other piece. They all work together, and if you don't have enough of any one thing, it's going to affect the whole.
The truth is, adding value will never go out of style. Hello, and thanks for joining us for a podcast today. This is actually our second podcast today, so we're excited to shoot. Got a second superstar to talk to as well, and Bruce Hill, thanks thanks for joining us. And I want to formally apologize to Bruce Hill. This is the second podcast with us, so first one was an absolute disaster. So
you guys are in for a real treat, because apparently I sucked last time.
no, it's we sucked it up good that time. Mustafa had a doctor's appointment run over and some different things like that, so you got stuck with me with the technology, and therein lied the problem. So so thanks for coming back a second time, and certainly you had a ton of great content last time, and it was like we're just gonna have to do it again. There was a lot of great stuff. So tell us a little bit about who you are, Bruce.
Okay, so Bruce Hill. I have a local real estate team here in the kind of the Triangle area. Real estate coach, but I'm really just a transplant down here to the greater Raleigh area. From Virginia originally, grew up, went to school, started my real estate business all in Virginia, and moved down here a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so far so good. Obviously not a huge difference from Virginia to North Carolina, I don't think, but
Yeah, 3 hours. Now the markets are completely different.
Yeah.
We were in a little 100,000 person town. Market's still kind of sluggish up there. I mean, it's certainly nothing like it is here.
Sure.
But it's close. The weather's it's still hell's front porch up there right now as well. I think we're still in the middle of that season here.
sure. And I mean, we're very fortunate to live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
consistently one of the
Yep.
top cities, and just about anything you're looking at in terms of people moving in,
Right.
people not leaving, economy, place to start a business, place to raise a family. So definitely fortunate there. And how long you been here in Raleigh now?
Let's see. We moved in 2000, the very beginning of 2015.
Okay.
And it was like a dart at a map. One of those things where business was good, but it was burnout mode. And my wife and I talked, and we decided that we were going to start looking at a couple of places. And we said, where are we gonna move to? And we picked 4 or 5 cities around the country, and we drove down to Raleigh. We hadn't even visited Raleigh ever before, or any of the other cities. And we drove down here, and that first weekend we went, this is it.
Awesome.
Didn't even check any of the other places out. Literally a month and a half later, we've got our spot.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so obviously so far so good. You're loving the area, and it's interesting to me you've only been here since 2015 because it just seems like you've been everywhere and really branded yourself and networking and really getting out there. So that's to me that's should be a compliment to you. That
Thank you.
I would just mentally think, yeah, Bruce has been here a decade easy.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
Just half.
Yeah, well, half a decade. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
How'd you end up getting in real estate originally? What was the driver there?
Oh man, the driver. A lot of people go into a field for all the right reasons. I stayed in it for all the right reasons. I
Okay.
got in it for all the wrong reasons. I got in it out of necessity. I'd just come off of a terrible decision to move to another city out of college, and I can remember 6-7 months into that experience. I was selling cars. I was waiting tables. I was 2-3 months behind on my rent payment in the apartment. And I woke up late one morning after being out partying the night before to a knock on my door. And I went and I opened the door, and my dad was standing there from 6 hours away, unannounced. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Pack up. We're going home." Now, I'm an adult at this point.
Right.
I'm 22, 23 years old, out of college. I'm working. And I go outside and I look, and he didn't bring a moving truck. He brought a cattle truck. And all of my friends that I'd made in this apartment complex, they all watch me through their windows as I load couch, bed, dishes,
Oh, wow.
all into this cattle truck. And it was the most humiliating moment of my life.
Oh man, this is good stuff.
But I needed to go. It was clearly the ultimate failure. So
You're just in party mode, basically.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. So I'd gone to a pretty conservative college, and you know, a lot of kids get some of that out of their system. I had not in college, so that was the next 8 months while I
Right.
was living alone after school, and
Like
you know,
William Wallace yelling freedom as you're tearing out of the club, you know?
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we ended up going home, and I worked for a builder for a while. And I promise, man, I smashed my thumb
Oof.
more than anyone else that had ever worked for this guy. And he was a reputable builder back home where I'd grown up. And he just had conversations with me. Are you sure you're cut out for this? We were friends, so he didn't want to fire me.
Sure.
And finally, one day I said, instead of building these houses, maybe I could just sell these houses. And I went in. The rest is history. So it was not. I didn't do it for all the right reasons. I did it out of necessity because I could clearly not swing a hammer.
You know, I think it's awesome though for people that are hearing this that maybe aren't in their strength zone right now.
Yeah.
You're not really sure what you want to do or where you're going. I actually had a conversation with someone the other day that was real frustrated. They just felt like they weren't getting there quick enough. And real quick, I don't want to hijack the story, but
Yeah.
you know, growing up, you know, I went right into the military at 17. After I got out of the military, I did property management, which was horrible. I washed cars and detailing, and which I actually kind of enjoyed that. But I worked for Lillington Ford for $10 an hour in Lillington at the intersection of 401 and whatever that was down there. But you know, I worked at Woodlake Country Club right outside of Southern Pines Pinehurst for a while. You know, I just bounced around, and I was really trying to find what I wanted to do. And you know, what I think when you're going through that process, because I was miserable a lot, and when I say miserable, I was frustrated a lot. I've always been pretty happy, and I'm sure you're the same way. But I was frustrated because I knew I could do something. I knew
right.
I had something inside of me that I could do at a high level.
Yep.
I just didn't know how to get the opportunity. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was there. And so if you're going through that right now, patience.
Yeah.
You know, and you do this, and you learn like, hey, I'm really bad at that.
Right.
But I was pretty good at this. You do this other opportunity, and you're really good at this, but man, you suck at spreadsheets.
Right.
You know, so, you know, when you're going through that process, you hopefully learning about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, and really what you're excited about.
Exactly.
And so I just wanted to jump in that because I think a lot of people, I guess I had a fresh conversation, which kind of makes me bring it up, is that if you're going through that process, stay patient, keep working, change it up, try different things. And we're going to circle back around on that because of we've both got changes going on as well. But anyway, back into your, so you started selling houses,
Well,
you found you really enjoyed it.
You kind of find your rhythm, and it's okay for those that, to your point, to the people that maybe aren't doing exactly what their genius is right now. If you haven't found that genius or you haven't found that strength, it's okay to keep trying. It's okay to dream and to test other things out. And you know, even starting out in real estate, it wasn't like I just walked in and I went, oh man, this is it.
Right.
I got all the clients that I want. I have all these different things. I was feeling my way through the dark. I remember 2 years in, you know, it was almost time to pack it up. My wife, I'm sure she wanted me to pack it up, and I went and got another job. So real estate, 2 years in, went from full-time to part-time for about 3 weeks, and I went to this company that I'm not even gonna say who they were, what they did, but it was not in my strength zone, and I was there, and I would literally take probably 30 to 40 bathroom breaks over the course of the morning. and I'd go down and I'd walk into into the hallway where there's this little hallway down where the bathrooms were, and I'd stop in the hallway and I'd look around, and if nobody was looking, I'd just lean my head against the wall and just slowly
Wow.
hit my head into the wall. It was terrible, and everyone there was so happy. They were loving it. It was a nice, relaxed work environment, but there was no challenge to it.
Was this a security company?
Might as well been a security cam. No, I'm just kidding. It was not challenging. You had a lot of people that were happy and they were in their genius,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
The company was
That's
great.
great.
It's
Yeah.
thriving today. It was not putting me in my genius mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove to work one day, and about 3 minutes before I was getting to work, my phone rang, and I picked the phone up on the way in, and it was somebody that was sitting in front of one of my listings, and they said, "Hey, we're in front of one of your listings," and I said, "Hey, do you want to see that right now?" And they said, "Yeah, can you do it?" And I'm looking at them at my building coming up here as I'm passing, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." So I just trucked right past. I didn't even tell my wife for like 2 weeks.
Man.
Don't do what I did. But
Meanwhile, there's a boss out there right now like, yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
Knucklehead no-showed me that day.
So the thing is people with what looks like a really good story.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, the successful people in this world, they've gone through their fair share of pain, aggravation, of the battle. They've messed up. They've done things wrong. Some have been honorable doing it. Some people no-showed their boss one day when they were driving to work. But the truth of it is without this story, you don't really build who you are.
Mm-hmm. I had this conversation yesterday too with someone. It's what we all do things that we look back and I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I could have done better. And all you can do is kind of own it and move on. Apologize if you need to. Life's too important to go around with friction with other people the best you can. But that's all you can do is just learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
So you made the sale, I'm guessing, on this house?
Made the sale.
All right.
Put the money in the bank, and that I keep saying the rest is history. It's all history. That kind of bought me 6 more months to figure out how to do what I needed to do, and I still didn't figure it out then. But each little success, you learn what you did right to get that success.
Mm-hmm.
You learn what you did wrong, and you gradually tighten those gaps up while you're really building and developing your chops in the business that you've picked.
Right. And another principle out of that, to be honest, is that you were probably much more motivated this time around and much more serious because you didn't want to go back to the pain of that drudgery of a job where you're out of your strength zone.
Yeah.
You don't enjoy that stuff. And that's very motivating. And one of the jobs I forgot to mention, I worked inside sales for House of Rayford at a turkey plant.
Yeah, turkey plant?
For $24,000 a year. And that was like a pretty good job in Fayetteville for, because everybody's prior military in Fayetteville, so that doesn't mean anything. But man, I despise that job. Everybody in the office smoked, which anybody that knows me, I absolutely despise cigarette smoke. I grew up with it around me, and I've always got cologne and stuff, so like scent is a big deal to me. And I would leave there smelling like a pack of ashtray or a bunch of ashtrays. But then there was the smell of death on the way to the plant. Where you could smell the turkey deaths. But anyway, that job motivated me. That was my last job before the security industry, and I left that and went straight commission. And I was just so motivated because I was so frustrated. And the moral of the story is I think we both had pain and frustration, and that just fuels the fire if you channel it correctly to drive you forward. So again, embrace that.
I really feel for the people that don't, that just kind of accept. I don't even want to say that you shouldn't accept that there's pain along the way. You should, but there are a lot of people that just go, I guess this is my life.
Sure.
This pain is my life. I'm gonna put up with this for the next 33 years until retirement.
Right.
Now, if you don't have a better option, maybe you stick that out while you're finding your better option. But a lot of people, they're not looking for that option. They're just accepting the life that they think that they're going to have to live for the rest of their days.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's sad to me. There's opportunity 24 hours a day. The internet has created unlimited amount of opportunity.
Yeah.
I think it's sad when anybody settles, but what do you do? I mean, the pain always drove me forward.
Yeah.
And made me want better. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people just settle in that, well, this is as good as it gets. And that's it's a shame. I don't know the answer there other than getting around some people that are not settling, like anything.
Yeah.
I'm overweight right now. I'm probably not working out as consistent as I should be. I'm probably eating out too much. Yeah. I get around a bunch of in shape, rock hard abs friends and this and that. I'm the portly guy. But it's a fact. I'm going to start feeling uncomfortable because of the people I'm around. And there's unequivocally, I will feel pressure to stop being the fat guy at the lake, and not that I'm tremendously large or anything, but when you're around people with a high standard of anything, it's going to help you raise your standard. And I just think that's really important.
Yeah. Man, I was just listening to someone a couple of days ago that I'd love to give credit where credit is due. I just can't remember who I was listening to, but the point of this talk I was listening to was get comfortable with a discomfort.
Right.
And the idea was you need to get comfortable putting yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. Because the more you're uncomfortable, the more you're going to want to change.
Right.
Or let's say you're working with someone who you would like to help elevate their world, their game, their life. You as that person that's being pulled up by someone else or helping pull someone else to the next level. You need to be okay helping that person be uncomfortable as well, and you need to be okay with that. You need to be comfortable with that lack of comfort, because that's where the growth happens.
Full disclosure, we just edited out the podcast because Bruce told an amazing story as we were discussing some failures and things like that. So what I do is encourage you, when you meet Bruce, ask him to share that story with you personally, and you're guaranteed to get a good laugh. Thank you. That was really hilarious. But, some successes. Obviously, you've got a very successful the Bruce Hill Group,
correct?
Your real estate company. You've got your DNA company.
Right.
If you want to talk about that just a little bit.
Absolutely. So the newest launch, what a lot of times you find when you've hit certain levels of success in whatever business you're in, you get used to being helped along the way, and different people offering a platform for you to step up on to, so that you can go to a higher level with the next step and the next step. And all those steps are built by someone else that went before you and teaches you how to grow. And a couple of years ago, I was introduced into the coaching world for specifically real estate agents. And I went through a season where I was coaching a lot of real estate agents one-on-one, but I really wasn't good. I was a good doer. I was learning and going through the same learning curve that we just talked about on the real estate side and the career side. I was going through that with the coaching business as well. But that couple of years taught me so many things about how to make other people better. So just recently, the most recent launch is a company that we've named The Agent DNA, and it's just we essentially coach professionals with a bent toward the real estate industry, but professionals on how they can develop the DNA of success. So the DNA for their business growth and success, because there are some principles that apply really across industries, but specifically, my world's always been real estate.
Right.
There are these principles that if you get those right, you're going to succeed. And their business principles, I'm sure that we could boil it down to life and different things like that. And I mean, there's some habits that you put into place in all aspects of your life. But these things, if you put them in to any business, it's gonna grow.
Well, I find it's a lot of times it's like baking a cake. You know, you got to have sugar, you got to have flour, you got to have that, you know, all the ingredients. And if you don't have all the ingredients right, it doesn't rise, or it doesn't taste good, or it's, you know, not the right texture. But, you know, so it's you know, figuring things out is really like baking. You just gotta keep trying again and again, adjust the measurements, a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that, and probably pretty similar. But part of what's really interesting about today's podcast is, and I think over time, even when I said circling back, part of what you and I both figured out at young ages was, as we were working hard trying to find our sweet spot, we found our sweet spot, and we did that for a long time. And now we're even more self-aware that, you know, for you with real estate, for me with security company, you know, we're even drilling down even on that, wow, this is, I'm really happy with this scenario. However, this 20% right here, this is what I really love. And yours is coaching and mentoring, and, you know, obviously got a good team. For me, it was branding, marketing, you know, just speaking for personal experience, and you can jump in after this, but it was, you know, I believe strongly in the security industry. You know, when I see, you know, bad news, I'll just leave it general and vague, but, you know, you see something horrific that happens from someone breaking into a house, and it's like, you know, I just know how easily and cost effectively we could have protected that home and that family or that business or whatever bad happened. And it's a little frustrating sometimes. So it's something, my industry, I believe in it strongly, but I don't love the security industry. Even though I believe in it strongly, I don't love service calls. I've done installations. I don't love installing. There are things in my business that I do love, and it's entrepreneurship. It's the variety of the chaos, the controlled chaos that is self-employment, you know? But I really love the marketing and branding. So starting Brand Ascent Media, the new company, is really doubling down on my strengths. And you're basically doing the same thing. So it's kind of interesting. So
absolutely,
you know.
Well, you talk about, you know, I always loved the client interaction. So how to grow an audience, how to appropriately message the value that you can bring. You get a lot of people who they have a lot of the correct ingredients into their business, but then they open their mouth and people go, not going to use that person.
Right. Well, they got their oven set at like 200 degrees.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that it's amazing. You know, I thought I loved real estate, which I do. I thought I loved real estate, and then I helped somebody else succeed, and I went, oh, that feels good.
That feels
that feels good.
Right.
Let me
it's a
see if I
level.
can. At a different level. And so once you kind of hit that certain place where what you do becomes what I like to call, I just totally messed up. I spaced on it. You can cut that out.
All right, we'll cut.
So once you hit that space where you fall into your creative genius, and you know what you know, and you know exactly how to do it, and it's second nature to you. Some of those things start to become. You don't really have to think about those, and you realize that you can have a much bigger impact on the world that you live in by helping other people do what you now know how to do. And so that's really why I've gotten into the coaching world these days.
Well, that's awesome. And so that kind of leads us right into our 5 things topic. Number 1, what do you got for us, Bruce?
All right. So the first thing is what we need to understand is that there's that DNA of a business. And every business has a DNA. And if you're not getting the business that you want, you're not getting the clients you want, you're not getting as many as you want, it's hard and difficult for you, it's probably because you don't have the right components in it of your DNA. In real life, if you were to come in behind me and take this water bottle, you could take some of my DNA off of this, and you not being a scientist, at least I don't think you are.
Definitely not.
You didn't mention it earlier, so you not being a scientist could put my DNA under a microscope, and you'd be like, I'm not sure if I'm looking at a
Pterodactyl.
pterodactyl or a person.
Right.
So what happens on the real estate side, on the security side, on the car sales side, whatever you're doing, if people aren't using you, if you aren't viewed as the professional, and maybe they're going to your competitor, it's probably because they don't recognize your DNA. They're coming along and they're picking up that sample of DNA, and they're looking at it and they go, that might be a dad, that might be a dog parent, might be a mom, it might be a former teacher. I mean, you could randomly roll a lot of things off, and you're trying to identify as something else from your audience. So in the real world, every DNA strand has 5 parts. Every single DNA strand out there, and the duplication of those 5 parts forms the whole picture. So once you've duplicated that DNA over and over and over and over and over again, in real life, I look at Brian Smith and you look at Bruce Hill. But just looking at that little clue that you've picked up, you might not be able to tell exactly what it is. And then for some people, they're duplicating the wrong clues. So they put the clue down, and then they duplicate it a couple thousand times, and someone looks at it and goes, I don't think I'm going to use them for whatever they're doing. So I basically kind of reverse engineered that on the business side of things. And I said, okay, so if every person has DNA, and if every DNA strand is 5 parts, what's a business DNA? And what's a business DNA that once it's duplicated is going to show the whole picture and make you a valuable asset to other people in their lives?
Right. Okay.
So that's really what I coach on.
Okay.
And the first, we talked about it. You gave me the great acronym last time.
Mamba.
Yeah, MAMBI.
MAMBI.
Yeah. So the very first aspect of the DNA is you have to have a motivational component to your business. All right. So motivation. I can't remember who said it, but someone said motivation is crap. All right. Because truthfully, we only have so much motivation in our world. So you have to build in motivating factors into your life. And by building those in, what you're really doing is you're building your habits. So habits remove your motivation. It's just what you do. You build the right habits in, and people are going to look at you and say, oh, what a motivated person. You go, hey, you know what? It's just what I do. The second thing that you need to put into that motivation is kind of these, some people might call it a why. So a compelling motivator. I'm compelled to do this because
Purpose.
I told myself that I was going to take a trip in 12 months. And if I don't succeed in business, I'm not taking that trip. Okay, so your motivation becomes very important when you when you're growing a business. The second thing is your audience. You can have all the motivation in the world. If nobody's listening to you, your business isn't going to go anywhere. That's really where
marketing and branding come in.
Yeah, your marketing and branding.
If you want to sell your product or service, you need somebody's attention.
Yeah.
And so how do you get that?
Yeah.
But
and your marketing and branding builds the audience.
Right.
Yeah. That's the thing with these is nothing is more important than the other piece. They all work together, and if you don't have enough of any one thing, it's going to affect the whole.
If you have audience, but you're not telling the right message, you're actually doing damage because they think they already know your deal. So you missed your, M&M. You only get one shot, right?
Yep.
And so you miss your shot basically. Opportunity, success is when opportunity meets preparedness. So if you have the opportunity but you weren't prepared, you missed out.
Right. So you've got your audience. You need to have a strong and thriving audience. So now we've covered kind of your motivation. You got to have those motivational components to your business. You have to have a strong, not just a strong, but a growing audience. You need to have more people. If you haven't added a single person to your list or your audience in a year, your business is going to start to suffer a little bit. but you can't do that at the peril of the people that you've built. So you can't go out and be like, hey, I'm going to meet 100 new people this week, or I'm going to add 1,000 people to a Facebook list this week, and not continue to follow up and deepen that relationship with the people
Nurture.
that you already know.
Yeah, nurture the existing depth in the relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So kind of moving on to
So
the
motivation
next
audience.
you got to have the right messaging. I can't tell you, I mean, I touched on it earlier, is you get someone that has everything right and they look good, and then they open their mouth and they say the wrong things, like, you don't want to buy this, do you?
Right.
Yeah.
Of course not.
No.
I did a minute ago
Yeah.
until you said it like that.
Or why
Right.
are you ignoring? You can turn people off in a lot of ways.
Sure.
So you have to develop the proper messaging. I like to tell people very frequently that that they go, I don't want to be too scripted. There are a lot of things that used to be a script for me, and I practiced them. Sometimes I looked in the mirror and I'd practice saying something.
Yeah.
I'd go back and I'd listen to one of my calls, or I'd watch one of my videos and I'd go, oof, man, it's rough. I'll probably do it with this. And go, oh, I got to fix that next time.
Yeah, but you're getting better. Yeah.
But you practice, and you critique yourself, and you make some adjustments, and what used to be a script for you becomes second nature, and it's not scripted. It's a part of who you are.
Right. And you can take it like this too. Another way of saying the same thing, and I love saying this, is that, Chris Rock tells a joke, and it's hilarious. I tell the same joke, it's just not even funny.
Right.
So it's not just what's said, it's how it's said, it's how it's communicated, and the delivery of the message. And that's what you're talking about, is that, comedians are always working on delivery. It's timing, it's body language, it's mannerisms, it's your eyes.
Yeah.
I could say, you're an idiot. Or I could say, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It's two totally different meanings.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, I mean, it's super important.
So I remember sitting in a listing appointment one day years ago, and I had a business partner in Virginia that had started out as my broker and my mentor. I plugged in, and I basically would go on these appointments with him, and he would sit down with a seller, and he'd say something, and there's too many examples to just pick one, and they'd go, oh, well, where do we sign? And then one day he told me to say the same thing, because he got 100% result. He'd say this, they'd say, where do we sign? And he said, say this. And I went into my first appointment and I said that, and the person said, what's your problem?
That's
So
hilarious.
you work on that, you practice, and you get your messaging right. And I'm not talking about just face-to-face messaging. You got to get your message out where people understand what you do and how you can help them, and they're motivated, they're compelled or drawn to work with you,
Right.
instead of you having to constantly be on pitch mode.
Just flows.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Okay.
And then we're on number 4, right?
Yeah, number 4 is your mapping. Okay.
Oh, we're on double M.
We're on double M.
Double
So
M,
it's
yeah.
MAMMB.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah.
Your mapping. You've got to have a good business plan. A lot of people, you set these goals for yourself, and I'm sure you've set goals for your security business, and the temptation is to look at that goal and go, I don't think I don't even know how I could get there. I'm not going to do anything at all because it's too big. In the real estate world, people go, okay, you know what? To make a living for my family, I need to help 24 people a year. And when you're starting out, you go, I don't
big
think I
number,
could
yeah.
ever do that. And then when you're experienced, you go, oh, that's second nature. And then you go, well, maybe I need to help 100 people a year. And you go, oh, I don't think I could do that. So
Right.
your map takes the ultimate goal and it breaks it down into what you're going to do on a daily, hourly, weekly basis. And it's not that bad.
Right.
A lot of people psych themselves out looking at that big number when they realize that if they just get up and they do a little bit every day, and they know what that little bit's going to do and how it adds in, contributes to the whole, they'll be fine. They're probably cutting themselves short by not doing that.
So basically, talking about business strategy and having what's the word I'm looking for? The business plan.
The business plan, yeah.
You can have all these things going great for you, but if you're planning on driving to Paris, you know, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
You know, leaving from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Right.
So you got to have a good, solid plan.
Yep.
You know, so that's basically the double M. So we're wrapping up with the B here.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap up with the B, but you just hit me. I remember seeing Tony Robbins say one time that
Running.
a lot of people.
Chasing sunsets.
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'm doing a Gary Vaynerchuk and jumping
Yes,
in
you
on
are.
you. I couldn't wait.
So a lot of people, they overestimate what can be done in a year. They underestimate what can be done in 3 to 5 years.
Right.
Dramatically.
Right.
So you create this huge 5-year goal and you go, I want to get there in 6 months. It's not going to happen. You're going to miss a lot of the steps. You're going to miss the overnight stay. You're going to miss changing your tire and changing the oil and getting gas, and you're going to be stranded because you're trying to get there too fast. But if you have that right plan with brakes set up through the process, you're going to get where you go, and 3 years later you're going to say, I can't believe I'm here. That didn't take long.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say running east looking for a sunset. You know, that's something he says a lot of as well, because you'll never see the sunset. You're looking the wrong way.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Yeah.
But wrapping up with B.
Yeah, the B. So we've got MAMMB. The B is your world. It's your brand marketing. All right. So I like to tell people if they actually go, and if you don't kind of have this image in your mind right now, you might want to go Google what a DNA strand looks like, and it's kind of that helical
Double helix.
Yep. And you've got in real DNA, you have 4 components that are made up, and then you have these proteins that are kind of your rails that hold everything together. And so for me, that's the 5th part. I like to put them together because they're the rails that keep everything else together, and it's your brand marketing. A lot of people separate those, but everything that you market should have your brand in it. You should be driving home a brand where people, if they think of real estate, they think of you. If they think of security, they think of you. If they think of whatever that brand is that you're building, you're the first person that comes to mind. And when you can put all 5 of those components together, and really the brand marketing is the rails that hold it all together, it's the last piece, you're going to have a very successful business.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You're making me happy talking about brand and marketing.
Yeah.
But you know, circling back around on when you do all these things together, you mentioned something earlier prior to the podcast. When you do these things over and over again, you develop something.
Yeah. So basically, you develop what I like to call the unconscious competence.
I like that.
And that's the expression I was looking for earlier, and kind of messed up on it. But unconscious competence, where you know what you're doing, you've duplicated it so many times that you don't even have to think about being perfect in that world.
Right.
And
it's just a reflex.
That comes with time. That comes
Right.
with the duplication of your DNA.
And that's why, you know, NFL football right now, this time of year, they're practicing.
Yep.
You know, they're practicing blocking and tackling and doing all the basics. They're developing their unconscious competence.
Yep.
To where it's just second nature.
Yep.
And the last thing I want to kind of point out that I think some people have trouble with is they're like, I'm just not motivated. And I just want to touch on that is that, you know, a lot of times you don't feel motivated early on. What you have to be is disciplined, and you have to start doing some things that you know you should be doing. And what I've found for me is when I'm not feeling motivated or this and that, I'll start making myself do some things.
Yeah.
And then I'll start feeling motivated. So usually you're doing the action, then you get the feeling.
Yes.
Usually it's not the feeling, then the action. So that's just something that I think has helped me a lot over the years. And then if I'm not feeling motivated and I'm having trouble with discipline, personally what I do is I'll throw on some Gary Vaynerchuk, some Anthony Robbins, you know, Tom Brady, Tom versus Time on Facebook. You know, I want to surround Conor McGregor. I want to surround myself with people achieving things, some Elon Musk, some Dana White, just all these guys that have accomplished some great things, been through adversity. And you again, to me, it comes back to association.
Yep.
You know, you might not be in a position right now to associate with a Bruce Hill or some people that are doing some great things, but you can sure download a podcast.
Absolutely.
You know, and listen to it. You can sure, you know, listen to a conversation between a Conor McGregor and a Dana White
Yep.
and pick up all these little things that both of those guys are doing right.
I guarantee if you go into Google and you type in motivation and you just leave it there and you hit space, one of the next things that's going to pop up is the word hack or hacks. So motivation hacks. You don't have to hack anything that is always easy all the time. You have to hack something that takes work to get there. And you can truly hack your motivation. And the best way to do it is to put yourself in the flow of what you know you need to be doing. And if you're there long enough and consistent enough and it becomes a habit, that motivation hack kicks in and it starts to be easy. You might have to do it every day.
Right.
You know, it might take you 30 minutes of grunt work every day to hit that zone. But you can do that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, Bruce, this has been a great podcast, and I appreciate your time today for the second time. And other than that, this has hopefully been great content. I've learned a lot today. Bruce is very cerebral. I always enjoy the conversation. So I'm glad we got to share this conversation with you guys today. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again, Bruce.
Yeah. Thanks,
and,
guys.
Hope this added value to you. Have a great day. Hello, this is Brian Smith, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more valuable content.